become a speaker, like speak at different conferences and meetups. And so I started doing that when I was in college. And I would always see, you know, if you ever go on some of these websites that have like a bunch of like speaking requests or speaking opportunities, it'll ask, you know, are you part of a minority group? And women, being a woman is always an option. And so that does allow for more opportunities at conferences if you're wanting to get into speaking. And so I've used that a lot. I use that and I've been able to speak.
No,
not
that's
saying
great
that's the
though.
only reason, but you know, but it's like, if you see it, it's not a bad thing. And so I'm always like, yeah, of course I'm a woman and I will definitely give a talk. You know, if that's the reason you picked me, then
Yeah, and I
that's
think,
totally
you know,
fine with
that's a
me.
good thing anyways, because there's a lot of women a little weary to get into tech. And if they see more and more women speaking out at these things, you know, it does encourage them. So that's great. I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, breaking the stigma has to just, you know, be over time.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly like you said. Over time, there's going to be more and more women in the field. I mean, right now, being a programmer and being in coding is kind
Yeah.
of like this hot thing, and so I'm seeing more people, more and more women jumping on. Like, I love going on Instagram and seeing a new female coding account come up because it's just inspiring. It's like, yes, there's more people that are doing it, and there's more people that are showcasing it. You know, the more that we show that we're doing it, and we show the different like facets of our life, it makes it more
Absolutely.
relatable for more people.
So you live kind of the life that we all dream about, working remote. And I know you said like how you got into it. So like, what are some of the things that like you love working like remote? You know, what are the benefits to you not having to go into an office every day? And then talk about a little bit of the challenges. You know, I know some people are like, oh, I can never work remote. I couldn't just be by myself all the time. I need people.
No, 100% all those things. At first, it's very difficult. I've been doing it for a year and a half, coming up on 2 years. It's very difficult. You have to like know your weaknesses. Because you have to be able to really plan your day. And if you're your boss, like you don't have anybody to report to, because it's very different, like going remote and working for a company than going remote working for yourself. Since I've done both, you know, when you have somebody to report to, you have business hours. They're going to be usually the same business hours as that company, depending on where they're located. So you usually have your 8 hours that you're supposed to be working for them, you know, writing code, you have meetings, you know, all those types of things. If you're working for yourself, though, you're your boss. You control what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done. And that's can be very difficult because you have to come up with the rules yourself, and you also have to hold yourself to following those rules. And so I work remote, and I work with my husband, who also works remote, who works for himself. And that in itself has been an amazing blessing. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I could never work with my spouse. That would be horrible. And I think the thing about that is people I think that we're just hanging out all day. And we vlog every day. Like we vlog daily about our lives working together and being remote and stuff. And so we do showcase that side of things, and we're actually like, we're together, but we're not together. We're not communicating. We're on our computers or at our desks, working on the stuff that we need to work on. And so it's been it's been an amazing opportunity. Like I feel super blessed that I've been able to do it. And I can hope to continue working remote. I think that's the future of most tech companies, especially as we're getting into like the next, 5 to 10 years, as more companies are going to be more tech companies,
yeah, absolutely.
As the future comes in. And so there's going to be a higher demand for developers, and some of those developers are going to, be overseas, which is going to be more remote jobs and more companies seeking remote workers from other parts of the country instead of just Silicon Valley, so they can pay, lower salaries.
So do you have set clients, or do you do things like, like Odesk and like stuff like that for Upwork, or is that how you find clients? Like, tell me a bit about like how you actually get work.
Yeah, for sure. I do have a good client now, and I got
Oh,
them
nice.
through social media, actually. Um, which is kind of, I tell people always make sure you're very aware of the stuff you're posting on social. But I had really fell in love with this company because I had been using them for about the past 5 years. And so I started tweeting about them. And I ended up getting picked oh man, was it 2016? I think it was 2016. They had picked me as a female innovator in tech. And so I got to go out to one of their conferences, and then I got to kind of hang out with some of the people at the company. And then I sort of just kept promoting them on my Twitter. And it just sort of led to this opportunity where they needed help. And I was like, hey, I'll do it. And so that kind of is how that
That's excellent. That
relationship
shows how much of an
started.
impact social media can really have. I think a lot of people think it's just for like posting on Instagram and stuff like that. That was where it's just like, oh, it's my life. But, you can really use that as a tool to get, like a LinkedIn tool or, a networking tool, which, kind of leads me into what my next question was going to be about the fact that you have done this so well. And, you're considered a tech influencer. You've got, such a big following on Instagram. What's that like? What does being an influencer in tech mean for you? Like, what messages are you trying to get across to your followers?
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for the nice words. It is still weird to be considered an influencer, especially because it does hold a lot of weight. And I think the term is just going to get more defined as more years, come, as we kind of see more and more influencers pop up. But my main message, with people, is when I hope people land on my Instagram page is that they can see themselves in what I'm doing, and see the genuine joy that I get every day out of my job. And because a lot of people hate their jobs, it's I feel like there's a statistic that's
That's so
70% of the
sad.
workforce hates what they do. Yeah, and I hate that because your job makes up so much of what you do. Your job is,
Yeah.
at least 8 hours a day, plus if you're commuting or if you also work, you bring your work home with you. It really just depends. And so showcasing being a programmer and being able to work remote and do different things social media work, influencer work, to show people that it is there, and that it's there for them to take, basically. If you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to grind it out for a while, because this didn't happen overnight. I've been working at this for a few years now, and if you're willing to put
Yeah.
in the
I
work,
think a
it
lot of
will reap
people,
the
need to
rewards.
hear that, because I think some people get really discouraged when they are trying to build a brand on Instagram, that they're not getting followers quick enough, and, they're not getting themselves out there. But, so it's really important to push out, this didn't happen for you overnight. You really worked on this, your messaging, your branding. So for other women who are in tech and want to start building brands behind their social media, what's your biggest advice for them, or advice for women who want to go into tech in general without even building this brand?
For sure. I think, the biggest thing I'll address the social part first, is pick a niche. What is it that you are good at? Pick something that makes you unique compared to other people, or pick something that you want to be known for. So when I first started my brand, which was, oh goodness, I think I actually started it when I was just finishing up college. And I was like, I'm going to become the best React Native developer. And that was my mission, was that people would just, when they would associate React Native, they would think of me. And I started doing that. I started, creating content, giving talks, and doing all sorts of things. And it never came to that big of a thing. But when content needed to be created about React Native, people were asking me to do it. And I was like, okay, so this is working. This whole social media, putting things out there, it's actually working. And it wasn't that I had a ton of followers or subscribers on YouTube, but what happened was the right people were seeing my content that needed content created for their stuff in the realm of React Native. That's kind of like the other thing is just because you don't have all the followers or all the subscribers doesn't mean you don't have the right ones. And so it's about getting your content in front of the right people, which is through engaging with those people, showing genuine and authentic interest in what they're posting about and start conversations with them. I ended up working with Treehouse and creating some courses for them for React Native. And that was through Instagram. I literally saw that Ryan Carson, the CEO and founder, posted about some sort of like needing content creators. And I literally was like, hey, if you ever need help, just let me know. And that opened up this opportunity to
That's
work
really
with
great.
them,
I mean,
which
that
was
really
an
shows
amazing
just how much
experience.
networking and social media can go hand in hand. And, I think it's really important to pull out, like, don't just post, engage with other people on there. And I love what you said about just because you don't have a ton of followers doesn't mean you don't have the right followers. And that's what I try to get across to people who are trying to do this because, don't buy followers, don't, just post on random sites, don't just do random hashtags so that you have all these people who don't really care about what you're doing. They just ended up following you. You want the people that care about, okay, well, she's a woman in tech and look what she's doing and she's working remote and maybe I want to be doing that or maybe I'm trying to get into tech. You want those followers.
Exactly. And another question that you had asked was about people trying to get into tech. And this sort of ties into people with trying to grow their social too. And it's something that I live by. And I live by 3 Ps. And I've mentioned this before, on my social, but it's perseverance, patience, and practice. So perseverance, keep working and learning, even when no one is watching, which is like the biggest thing. So just because like you're posting that you're doing something or, you don't have any followers yet, keep doing it. Like keep going after, keep posting, keep engaging because it will happen, which goes into the next P, which is patience. You have to have patience in everything that you do. Patience to understand that things don't happen overnight and to not let that get you down. Because a lot of times when we see these accounts that have like hundreds or even millions of followers or subscribers, of course that can like weigh on you to be like, oh, I want to be there. I want to be there. But if it's like, if you really want it, you have to keep being, persistent and keep posting and have the patience that it will work out, which, goes into the third P, which is practice, which is that repetitive action of keep doing it, see what works. If something isn't working, pivot, figure out what isn't working, figure out what is working, tweak it and then keep going. That's the same thing for people that are trying to get into programming or any really aspect of tech.
It takes a lot. It takes time. It takes practice. That's excellent advice. I think people can get frustrated when things aren't happening overnight. So I think this is a really good perspective. So what does the future hold for you? Any upcoming projects or things that, you're working on?
This year, 2019, has been a year of like rebuilding and trying to really define the future of my brand and these 2 other brands that I've been working on and trying to really grow them. So this year has just been it's going to be a lot of just grinding, a lot of hours.
Sounds like quite a year. Brandy, thank you so much for being on the show. If anyone's interested in hearing about those online sources that you can use to get into tech or those classes that we talked about, reach out to me or Brandy Morgan at Miss Brandy Morgan on Instagram. This has been an episode of Talk Digital to Me, a weekly podcast released every Monday, keeping you up to date with the digital and tech world. Follow on Instagram at TDTM Podcast. See you next Monday.